Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're looking into the 2025 Subaru Forester Hybrid. Pretty exciting stuff, I think, especially since it's the first time Subaru is bringing hybrid tech to the Forester here in the US. We've got a lot to unpack today from reviews to official Subaru information, even some early impressions from a YouTuber who got their hands on one. So the big question is, does it live up to the hype? Will this finally be the Forester that gives us both a fun driving experience and the fuel efficiency we're all looking for? Let's dive in and find out.
You know, it's interesting. Subaru is kind of late to the hybrid SUV game.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing, though. Maybe they've had time to learn from the competition and really refine their system. But they're also entering a market that's changing really rapidly.
Yeah, for sure. Subaru isn't exactly known for being cutting edge, so let's get right to it. What's under the hood of this thing? It's not just some mild hybrid system. We're talking full series parallel. But
Yeah.
for those of us who don't speak car, what does that actually mean?
Well, think of it this way. You get the best of both worlds. The engine and electric motors can team up for maximum power. Or the electric motor can drive the car all on its own, at least for short distances, of course. Subaru is using a 2.5-liter boxer engine, but the key here is they've tuned it for efficiency using something called the Atkinson cycle.
Okay, wait, hold on. Atkinson cycle. Sounds a bit intimidating. What's that all about?
Oh, it's actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Basically, the Atkinson cycle, it delays when the intake valve closes, which lets you squeeze more energy out of each drop of fuel, like getting more miles out of every gallon. The trade-off, though, is it might not feel as powerful on its own, and that's where the electric motors step in.
Uh-huh. So you mentioned two motors earlier. Are those what make up for the power the engine's sacrificing to get that better fuel economy?
Precisely. One motor gives that direct boost to the wheels, while the other one smooths out the power delivery through that electronic CVT. Altogether, you're looking at 194 horsepower. That's even more than the non-hybrid Forester. And that's really important, because hybrids, especially with all-wheel drive, they need that extra electric punch to avoid feeling sluggish.
You mentioned all-wheel drive, and of course that's Subaru's big thing. So how does all-wheel drive work in the hybrid? Are they sticking with their usual system or trying something new?
Sticking with what they know best, symmetrical all-wheel drive. And importantly, it's mechanical, not just an electric motor on the rear axle like some of their competitors do. What that means for you is consistent all-weather performance, no matter what you're driving through.
That's definitely reassuring, especially for anyone who deals with tough winters. So you've got all this power and capability, you'd think fuel economy would take a hit. But some of these numbers we're seeing, they're pretty impressive.
Yeah, one review claimed 35 miles per gallon combined, which is a pretty excellent number for an SUV this size. Another source said 40% better city mileage compared to the non-hybrid. Now that's a big deal for stop-and-go traffic. And get this, one article even mentioned a potential range of 581 miles.
581 miles, that's serious road trip potential. But those are some bold claims. You said earlier Subaru is kind of playing catch up here. Are you skeptical about those numbers at all? You know, a lot of hybrids struggle to hit their EPA ratings in real-world driving. What makes you think this Forester will be different?
It's a fair point. EPA estimates are just a starting point. Real-world driving habits and conditions can definitely impact fuel economy. We'll need to see more data and get some real-world tests before we know for sure.
Right, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But even if it gets close to those numbers, it's still a big leap forward for the Forester. Speaking of leaps forward, let's talk about the interior and the features. Anything new and noteworthy in there?
Well, Subaru is offering the 2025 Forester Hybrid in 4 trim levels: Premium, Sport, Limited, and Touring. And they're paying attention to the details. The Touring trim gets genuine leather, while the other trims get a vegan leather alternative.
Vegan leather, huh? That's pretty cool. Seems like we're seeing that more and more these days.
Yeah, definitely. Speaks to those changing consumer preferences. And it fits with Subaru's image of being environmentally conscious. They're also stepping up their tech game. All hybrid models come standard with a digital gauge cluster, which is a first for the Forester. Plus, they've got that large 11.6-inch touchscreen across the entire hybrid lineup.
All right, so they're checking a lot of boxes here, but we got to talk about the elephant in the room, the price. Subaru hasn't announced official pricing yet, which always makes things interesting. What have you heard?
One expert estimated a premium of somewhere between $1,500 and $3,000 over the non-hybrid models, which seems reasonable enough. But another source speculated that a fully loaded touring trim could reach $42,000 to $43,000.
Oof, that's a chunk of change. Even for a hybrid with all the bells and whistles, makes you wonder if it'll be competitive with other hybrid SUVs in its class. What do you think?
It's going to be a tight race for sure. Subaru is known for offering a lot of standard features,
Hmm.
but they're going to have to hit that sweet spot between price and value to really attract buyers,
Uh-huh.
especially those who are already considering those other options out there.
Yeah, like the RAV4 Hybrid and CRV Hybrid, those are already pretty popular.
Exactly. That's where this late entry could hurt them. They're up against some tough competition.
Speaking of competition, there's something that I noticed. We've seen that wilderness trim on other Foresters, but it seems to be missing from the hybrid lineup. What's the deal with that?
It's a curious omission, for sure. There's definitely a growing demand for those rugged, off-road capable vehicles. And combining that with hybrid tech seems like a no-brainer to me. I remember driving the previous generation Forester, and it felt like it lacked that punchy acceleration. Adding those electric motors could be a real game changer for daily driving, especially in a wilderness model.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like a missed opportunity, especially since the wilderness trim has been so popular. Do you think Subaru has something else up their sleeve? Or are they just hesitant to invest in that niche model?
Hard to say for sure. Maybe they're waiting to see how the standard hybrid performs before they commit to a more specialized version. Or maybe they're working on something even more radical, a plug-in hybrid wilderness, perhaps.
Ooh, now that would be interesting. Okay, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but it's fun to speculate. So before we move on, let's just recap what we know about the 2025 Forester Hybrid so far.
Okay, so we've got a full hybrid system, promising better fuel economy, and maybe even a little more pep in its step. It keeps Subaru's signature symmetrical all-wheel drive. It's got a bunch of new tech features, even a choice between genuine and vegan leather. All of that coming in 4 different trim levels to suit various tastes and budgets.
But of course, there are still some unanswered questions.
The biggest one being the price. It's a crucial piece of the puzzle. And until Subaru releases that official pricing, it's tough to say how competitive it'll actually be.
And then there's that question of real-world performance. Will it actually live up to those optimistic fuel economy claims? Will it feel as capable and enjoyable to drive as its non-hybrid counterpart? We'll have to wait for more information and get behind the wheel ourselves to find out.
Absolutely. But one thing's for sure, the 2025 Subaru Forester Hybrid is creating a lot of buzz. We're excited to see what it brings to the table.
I think that's a great place to shift gears a bit and talk about what all this means for you, the listener. Why should you care about this new hybrid Forester? Let's dive into that in part 2.
So why should you care about this 2025 Forester Hybrid? Well, if you're a Subaru fan, this is a pretty big deal. It's your first chance to get a Forester with that hybrid fuel efficiency, without having to give up that renowned all-wheel drive.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to make the ultimate Forester. Practical, fuel efficient, capable in any weather, dependable. But I know some people are thinking, okay, what about the competition? How does this Forester Hybrid stack up against all those other hybrid SUVs out there?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
We won't get into a full comparison here, but it's important to remember that the Forester Hybrid is going up against some heavy hitters, like the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, the Honda CR-V Hybrid, and the Ford Escape Hybrid.
Yeah, those are some tough competitors. What sets the Forester apart? What makes it stand out from that crowd?
Well, for one thing, Subaru has that symmetrical all-wheel drive system. That's a big advantage, especially if you live in places with rough winters. And you can't forget about their reputation for reliability and durability. Those are major selling points for a lot of buyers.
You're right. Subaru has really built a solid reputation for building cars that last. But let's be practical for a minute. A new car is a big investment. What are the financial implications of going hybrid?
That's a smart question. Obviously, fuel savings are a big factor, especially with gas prices being so unpredictable these days. But there's also the potential for tax incentives, depending on where you live.
Yeah, tax incentives are always a nice bonus. It's like getting rewarded for making a more eco-friendly choice.
But there's more to it than just saving money at the pump, right?
Absolutely. It's about reducing your environmental impact. Hybrids produce fewer emissions, which is a win for everyone. And with Subaru's commitment to sustainability, this Forester Hybrid feels like a step in the right direction.
Okay, so we've talked about the why, but let's get specific. Who exactly is this car for? Who do you think Subaru is targeting with the hybrid Forester?
I think they're trying to appeal to a broad audience. Families, outdoor enthusiasts, anyone who wants the versatility of an SUV with the added benefit of hybrid efficiency.
So they're trying to get those buyers who are environmentally conscious, but they don't want to compromise. On capability or practicality, exactly. They're not going after that hardcore off-road crowd, at least not yet. Not without that wilderness hybrid option. They're aiming for the everyday driver who wants a reliable, fuel-efficient car. That can handle a variety of driving conditions.
Yeah, it makes sense. They're staying true to their brand identity while still evolving with the times. But it's hard not to think about that missing wilderness hybrid. It feels like a tease almost, like they're testing the waters before they really jump in.
Maybe. Or maybe they're waiting to see how the market responds to the standard hybrid first before they expand the lineup. It's definitely a strategic move.
It makes you wonder what their long-term plans are for the Forester. Do you think this hybrid is just the beginning? Could we see a plug-in hybrid version down the line?
It wouldn't surprise me at all. The whole industry is moving towards electrification, and Subaru won't want to be left behind. A plug-in hybrid would offer even better fuel efficiency and the ability to drive on electric power alone for those short trips around town.
Imagine a Forester. That could handle your daily commute without using any gas at all. That would be pretty amazing.
It would be a game changer. And we can't rule out the possibility of an all-electric Forester someday.
An all-electric Forester conquering those trails silently? Now that's a future I want to see.
I agree. It's a really exciting time to be following the automotive industry. And this 2025 Forester Hybrid is just a glimpse of what's to come.
So to wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the main takeaway for our listeners? Why should they be paying attention to this new hybrid Forester?
It represents a shift towards more sustainable and fuel-efficient vehicles without having to sacrifice the features and capabilities that people have come to expect from Subaru.
Yeah, it's like a bridge between the familiar and the future. It's about making smarter choices without compromising on what we love about driving.
Exactly. It's about progress, innovation, adapting to a changing world.
And with that, let's shift gears one last time and talk about some final thoughts and what the future might hold for the Forester. Stick around for part 3.
Okay, so we've covered a lot about this new Forester, but before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to hear your final thoughts. Do you think Subaru's gamble on this hybrid Forester is going to pay off?
It was a bold move, for sure. They're entering a crowded market, going up against some really established competition.
Yeah, and like we said before, they haven't exactly been known for their hybrid technology.
Yeah.
Can they really convince buyers that they're a serious contender in this space?
I think it comes down to execution. If they can deliver on those promises, fuel efficiency, capability, reliability, I think they have a real shot. Subaru has a pretty loyal following, and I think a lot of their customers are looking for exactly what this hybrid offers.
Yeah, that's true. Subaru owners are a passionate bunch, and a lot of them are already pretty environmentally conscious. This could be that perfect vehicle for them to kind of bridge that gap between their values and their lifestyle. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Subaru isn't trying to reinvent the wheel with this one. They're taking what they do well and adapting it to a changing world.
Right. It's like they're saying, hey, you can still have that adventurous, go-anywhere spirit, but now you can do it with a smaller carbon footprint.
Exactly. And that message resonates with people. We're seeing a growing demand for vehicles that align with our values. People want to feel good about the cars they drive.
And saving money on gas never hurts either. But what about the future? Where do you see the Forester going from here? And Subaru in general?
Well, I think this hybrid is just the first step. We're going to see more electrification across their entire lineup. Plug-in hybrids, all-electric models, maybe even hydrogen fuel cells down the road.
Hydrogen fuel cells, huh? Now you're really taking us into the future.
Hey, it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. Subaru's known for their engineering. They're always pushing the boundaries.
I like your thinking. So for our listeners out there, what's the one thing you want them to remember about this Forester Hybrid?
I'd say remember this. This car is a sign of the times. It reflects our changing priorities, our desire for a more sustainable future. It's proof that you don't have to compromise on performance or capability to make a difference.
That's a great point. It's about making conscious choices without sacrificing the things we love. And who knows, maybe this Forester Hybrid will pave the way for even more exciting innovations down the road. Maybe that all-electric wilderness model isn't just a pipe dream after all.
Maybe not. That's what makes this so interesting. We're at a real turning point in the auto industry, and it's exciting to see where things go from here.
For sure. Well, to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of this 2025 Subaru Forester Hybrid and what it represents. We've covered a lot, from the technical specs to the bigger picture implications.
And most importantly, we hope we've sparked your curiosity and given you something to think about.
That's what we're all about here at the Deep Dive, exploring new ideas, challenging assumptions, and really digging into the topics that matter.
So if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Let us know what you think. We always love to hear from our listeners.
Until next time, keep those wheels turning
Yep.
And stay curious.